Hello, humans. Episode 1. Here we are. Oh my gosh. Exciting. Today we're going to be talking about superpowers.
This is a topic we talk about a lot.
A lot.
It's a common road trip topic because Ryan's always thinking of new superpowers. Mm-hmm. And he uses it as a conversation starter all the time when we're with new people or people that we haven't gotten to know super well. He always asks them 2 questions.
Yeah, it's like a break the ice question. So I'll ask you guys the same questions. Go ahead and respond in the comments below. No, I'm kidding. Unless you really want to. Question number 1. If you could have a stereotypical normal superpower,
like the
what
ones,
would it be?
The ones you see in movies and comics, like the common ones.
The common ones, yeah. Something, I always say, something a kid would think of. Super strength, super speed, moving things with your mind, flying, teleporting. It's kind of hard to say things you see in movies because I would not consider Wolverine's power common.
Yeah.
Right? And so, just like the typical one, something very simple, very basic, right? Like, what would you choose? And so that's always the first question.
Yep. You want to go first or you want me to go first?
Go for it.
Oh. So, wow, I just totally blanked.
Come on, you know what yours is. She has the same one every time. I can never choose. So I'm always switching mine. She has the same one every time.
Mine is shapeshifting. Just because I think it'd be really cool. And I think it covers lots of areas. Like if I wanted to fly, I could just turn into a bird. Or if I wanted to swim, I could turn into a dolphin or something. Or if I wanted to hide, I could turn into something and no one would know where I went. So
here's my question. Could you turn into inanimate objects as well? Or just living things? I think
it'd be cool if I could turn into inanimate objects.
I think so too. It would be awesome.
There's a book that my grandma used to read to us when we were little about a donkey who finds a magic pebble. And I can't remember what it is. I don't know if it grants wishes or something. But he turns himself into a rock, but then he turns himself into like a big boulder, but he can't reach the pebble anymore, and so he can't wish to be normal again, and so he's just sitting there as a rock for a long time.
I know that children's book.
I don't remember what it's called. I know it's a donkey, though.
I think I know that one. That's really weird that I know. I just get this feeling of a picture and I'm seeing it.
So when you say turning into inanimate objects, that's kind of what I think of. Like accidentally, like turning into a plant and not being able to turn myself back to normal. But if it's like a superpower, it's not like an object, so I don't have to be holding...
Yeah.
I don't have to be holding the pebble. I can just turn
myself you should
back
be allowed to do that. I think, okay. No, I'll save that question for another time. Okay. Let's keep it simple. So you would be able to turn into animate objects.
Sure, yeah.
What would be your go-to thing to turn into?
I'd say either like a bird or a cat.
My thought was cat. She's a cat girl.
Because I feel like they give me just a lot of freedom. Like if I was just bored or tired of people or something like that, I could just turn into a cat and just go wander around. Just see the world from a new perspective and just do whatever you want. Because people just ignore cats when they're out roaming around, for the most part.
At least where we're at, yeah.
Yeah. And if I turned into a bird, then obviously I could fly somewhere. And
would you be a pretty bird or inconspicuous bird?
Probably inconspicuous. I wouldn't want to be captured.
A wild flying emu.
Emus don't fly.
This one could. You could shapeshift into with big wings. Now that would be a sight to see. Okay, yeah. Yeah, good. Shapeshifting. Is it my turn? Mm-hmm. I change mine almost on a daily basis. It's hard to decide. What would I want? I feel like, recently it was X-ray vision, but not just X-ray, changing the optical nerve. So like seeing thermal, seeing heat, but then you're kind of like straying away from the simple concept.
Yeah.
So it used to be X-ray, but
it's more complex.
Yeah, right now I'd say no. I'd say...
I know for a while it was
super speed. And that's what I'm debating about right now. Maybe I would just be psychic.
Read minds, or
I feel like psychic is a general term.
Like Professor X?
I feel like psychic, when I was a kid at least, psychic was like telekinesis, telepathy, and teleporting. Those are like the 3 psychic things.
I feel like those are generally separated, though.
No, if I say psychic...
I can't think of any superhero that has all 3 of them.
It's my power. I can say what I want.
Usually when I hear psychic, I think of Professor X. They can get inside your mind. Read your thoughts.
So telepath.
Exactly.
Okay, then not that. I don't know what I'm feeling right now. What would be useful right now in my day-to-day life? I'd say super speed.
What would
What
you do
would I
if
do
you
with
had
that?
super speed?
At work, it'd be nice. I'm a mechanic, for those who don't know. And so, like, if, like, just small things, I can just, like, whoop, like get all these bolts off and then, whew, cool, next one, you know. Sometimes oil changes take a while just because I have, like, a full checklist to check. The oil change itself doesn't take long, but I have to check everything. Just because that's our store policy, you know. Super speed might be nice.
Be pretty useful. Would you be worried about people catching you?
No,
Or
flight. It'd be flight. Spring's around the corner. It'd be flight.
because of spring?
I want to fly through the mountains right now.
Would you be worried about people catching you, or like would you have to do it in secret?
Should we save that for the next one where it gets a little more in depth?
I mean, we could just talk about it right now.
Okay, yeah. So with superpowers, we have to think about, yeah, like what Lillian said, like, okay, so this is a good point about superpowers. I like to think about superpowers a lot, obviously. Yeah, we've talked about that. Like, I feel like there's two routes. You can take the fantasy version of superpowers or the realistic. She's asking a realistic question. Now, if we had superpowers, what would happen? Morally and legally, what would happen, you know?
Like, would we have to hide our powers, or
Yeah.
would we be able to do it openly? Or...
Yeah, and I feel like that is a very difficult question because you truly never know how people will react. Movies exaggerate everything, but there's truth to some extent, right?
Yeah.
I feel like we live in a very equal world where if you did something publicly, people would know, and people would, like governments or powers that be, would want to take you and maybe do stuff with you.
I'm sure that like there would be people who would be scared about
Yeah.
what you can do and the powers you have, and so government would get involved in some
Yeah.
way, and then scientists would be like, how is this possible? Lots of people
Yeah.
would be like, how is this possible? And so then they'd want to run tests and stuff like that, and then you get into like, well, are they
Moral
gonna
ethics.
honor your rights, or
Yeah.
like do you no longer
Yeah.
have rights because you're a danger, or
And so I think in my perspective, then I'd have to do it secretly, just out of fear, realistically, out of fear of not the unknown, just not knowing. I would do it secretly. In that case, flight would be difficult.
yeah. That's why I like shapeshifting.
No, I don't want to be a
because
shapeshifter. Oh my gosh.
I could fly and be secret about it.
I always scoffed at your ability, but holy cow.
It's
What if you shapeshifted yourself into a frisbee and like ran and jumped off? You could travel so well, you would just be a bird.
I don't
never
think
mind.
I could run as a frisbee. Frisbees don't have legs.
No, I was saying run and then jump.
Oh, run and
transform.
jump and turn into a
But
frisbee.
then you could just be a bird. Never mind. I
Yeah.
keep thinking inanimate objects.
I
for some
cannot really
reason.
see a use for turning into an inanimate object unless I was hiding.
That's what I was thinking. Is like inconspicuality.
That's the only time I could think of that.
That's a
Of
word.
using that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think. Oh dang, flying.
You got to commit to one, at least for this episode.
Teleporting would be cool. I'd say shapeshifting. I'm with you on this one. Wow. This next few weeks, I'm a shapeshifter.
Okay.
That's interesting to think about. So now here's another... Okay, no. Let's do the next one. Let's do the next
Okay.
question. Next question. And so after they respond, usually it's not that long of a conversation. But after they respond, I'll be like, okay, that's nice. Next question. A unique, odd superpower. What would it
One
be?
that you've come up with kind of on your own.
Either on your own or maybe taken from a movie or something
But
cool.
it's only
like,
seen like once or
yeah,
twice.
something unique, you know? Man.
I like to steer towards the route of like coming up with it on your own, because then you make people think and you get to
Yeah.
kind of, I don't know, see the way their brain works, and that's really cool.
Yeah. Like a fun one I can think of. I can think of two of them. Do you want me to go first or you go
Sure,
first?
you can go first this time.
So, one that I really like that I've thought of before is the idea that you can memorize anything your body senses. So your 5 senses, you can memorize any experiences you've had.
Like an archive in your brain.
Yeah. And so if I'm at school, I can memorize anything I see, like notes, but I have to consciously think of it. I can't just glance, because then my memory will be a glance. You know, you have to like read
be
a
kinda
sentence.
blurry or
yeah.
something, yeah.
And you have to like think about, you just read the sentence. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Cool. Question number 5. Then at any point I can look back and memorize it. And this would be useful for both sounds, hearing, and in some instances, maybe taste, smell, and feel, you know?
It'd be really cool for cooking. Like if you make something and it turns out just perfectly, like you can memorize that flavor, and then next time you make it, you can like adjust it until you match that flavor
I
again.
didn't even think about that.
Though I feel like that might be kind of annoying, because like what if you can't match the flavor again, and you just remember how good it tasted that one time,
That'd be awful.
and you can't figure out how to match it? Well,
Oh, man.
well, you would be able to memorize how much you put in because you watched yourself put it in.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my gosh.
dang, I feel like that would make my brain hurt so bad. That's
No.
so much information.
Yeah, I just thought. Well, okay. Here's the other thing. It's not always going.
Not
You
always
choose
there. You
when
have to.
activate it,
You have to recall it.
Yeah. There's a whole nother conversation about that, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
active and passive abilities. This would be an active ability. You have to choose
You have to activate
to
it.
use it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Passive, I feel like, would be being born with 4 arms. You can't change that.
Yeah.
But this would be active. Think about sports applications. I was a pole vaulter in high school. Like, there's certain form things that were really hard for me to do, but when I did them, you could feel the difference. And so, like, just always being able to keep in mind certain things. Because, like, when you're doing anything, it doesn't just have to be sports. When you're doing a certain task, you have to think of so much. You have to think of, like, positioning. I'll take sports, for example. You have to think about your form, your speed. You have to think about your arm position, leg position. You have to keep your head back, eyes up. It's, all this stuff. Like, if I could think of all of that at once and memorize that feeling, dude, that'd be way better. I feel like I'd be able to, and it doesn't take away from learning. It's not just like an instant, I have the skill. You still have to experience things.
Because like we already kind of have that ability to memorize the things our senses experience.
Yeah.
It's just a lot harder, and we don't have as much of that mental capacity. So it
Yeah.
almost just like expand our capacity for what we can already do.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. I like superpowers that seem even in balance. And we can talk about that in another episode or later on. Yeah.
Is that the one you're choosing then for now? Okay.
Yeah, I'll say that one.
That one?
Being able to memorize experiences that I've had.
I feel like mine is very similar to abilities that we've seen in movies or comics or stuff. Mine would be about plants, and I think of like Poison Ivy or that one girl in Sky High that can control plants.
The girl that chooses to be a sidekick because she hates labels.
But I don't want to like necessarily control plants, but rather communicate with them, like understand them, and maybe just understand them. I don't know. I just think about like if I had a house plant, I could maybe feel what it needs or hear what it needs. I don't know how it would communicate, maybe through sound, like music,
or maybe like a sixth sense.
Yeah, or like I would just know, or I feel like to some degree I can tell more or less what a plant needs by looking at it. You know, some plants, if you know enough about the plant, obviously.
She does. She's a plant lady.
Like I have a peace lily that is a drama queen, and if it doesn't get watered when it wants to, then it like looks like it's dead. It just like plays dead. And then I water it and it perks back up.
I think it was pretty scary the first time that happened too. We were like, what happened? What happened?
Yeah, it was like flat.
Yeah, it was totally flat,
It's
like laying over.
It's like probably 2 or 3 feet by 2 or 3 feet.
I almost want to go get it.
It's way too heavy.
It's big.
And we were gone for a week, and I watered it before we left. And we came back and it's flat, just
like it was just
yeah, like it was dead. And I watered it, and within a day it was
perked back
to
up.
normal.
Yeah.
So that's when I can tell when it needs water or what it needs. Obviously, you have to learn specifically about the plant to know what it needs. But
yeah,
I feel like it would be cool to be able to understand them and maybe not like control them or like force them to grow, but be like, oh, they need more fertilizer. Or if I could communicate with them, be like, I don't know, be happy, grow. I don't know.
encouraging thoughts.
Yeah.
That's funny. So going on to the next in-depth thing, we talked about like moral ethics and whatnot. What about weaknesses?
Oh, yeah.
So, for example, if I memorized a lot of things and I constantly had information being recalled, I feel like I'd have to have a limit somehow.
Yeah.
Like maybe I can only remember things within a certain amount of time, and then once that time passes, it's gone. What are you thinking?
I was gonna say, what if you had like a storage capacity?
That's what I was thinking.
Like on your phone, like you have a certain amount of space for pictures and
so
stuff.
I have to
like
cycle
that.
through and be like, oh,
And have to
gotta
delete
forget
stuff.
this, get that, you know.
That'd be funny.
That would be funny.
That would be a pretty good limitation too.
It would, yeah. Or like, well, I'm thinking of more realistically, like, I'm thinking of people who are sometimes on the spectrum. They might be really awkward socially, but they are geniuses when it comes to like
maybe
math
you're
and
limited
stuff.
in like other areas.
Yeah, so like maybe the more information I get smart intellectually, but then maybe like socially or in other aspects, like empathetically, I lack.
Well, if you did go with the memory, like the storage
one,
system,
yeah.
like maybe if you're like, I really want to like memorize the stuff for this test, I'm gonna have to forget some of my social skills in order to do that. So you can choose what it is you're forgetting. And I mean, if you prioritize information over social skills or something like that,
That makes it so I don't want this power anymore. But see, then it's a good trade-off.
But yeah, and it's a choice. So maybe
and if I choose not to activate, I can still learn like normal.
yeah, and so you could like you don't have to choose to get rid of your social skills.
Yeah.
You could, limit yourself. Like say, okay, I'll memorize just this many books, and then once I'm done with that, then I'll delete the parts I don't need. Or
Oh, I
something
feel like
that.
I'd miss that though. See, I feel like knowing me, the natural man inside me would like that feeling of being able to remember things. And so I feel...
I was gonna pull it, but there's a hair sticking out. I was gonna pull it, but I knew you'd get mad at me.
She has this habit of like trying to pull like one hair or loose strand of something, but it's really hard to pull and she won't be able to get it. So she'll like try and it kind of hurts a little, like a
And it, like,
she'll
curls.
Stop. Yeah, and she's like, I can't get it. And then I have this one curly strand, like, oh my gosh. So I always tell her like, don't start it if you're not gonna finish it. If you're gonna pull it. Yeah. Anyway,
I feel like your storage capacity would get bigger as you get older.
I like that.
So like you wouldn't be
so
stuck
hard,
with
though.
the same amount of information, because that would suck, because as you get older you have more experiences and stuff like that. So it makes sense that your storage capacity would get bigger.
I think that's a good balance of it, Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about you? Being able to commune with plants.
I feel like mine's pretty balanced. Like I can't
That's true. You can't. Like,
I can't
fully
control
communicate.
them or force them to do
Yeah,
anything.
you can't force them to grow.
Yeah.
Most
and
people
so
would think of like, I can grow plants.
you just force them, you just take over the world with your plants.
A branch comes out and a good plum or pomegranate drops down.
Yeah.
Pomegranates.
That would also be. See, I'd probably go into like botany or something if I did that. I mean, obviously, and I could have like a nursery or an orchard or something like that, and I would always have the best crops because I would know exactly what they need. And
So many people would be jealous. Like, what's she doing wrong?
I feel like, okay, a weakness. I feel like I would become like a hermit, like a shut-in, because I have my plants and I don't need people.
You wouldn't want to socialize.
Yeah.
Dang.
So I guess it depends on how I understand the plants. If it was
Yeah.
like they spoke to me, then I'd never be lonely and I would never need people, and that wouldn't be good.
Yeah, I feel like there's some pretty good balances.
Yeah.
I really like thinking about that. Yeah.
I think a good superhero story or a good superpower needs to have a balance, because if they're overpowered, then it's just, I don't know. It's boring, I think.
Yeah. You see that a lot in animes, like where the main character gets really strong and then you need an even stronger villain for the next season, and they have to get even
Yeah.
stronger.
I feel like
it just kind
they-
of gets out of proportion.
Yeah, and they did that in the Avengers, I think, a little bit with
Yeah.
Captain Marvel. It's like
Yeah.
she came out and she was so overpowered, and everyone's like, well, like, now what? Like, why didn't we
Yeah,
have her
like-
before? And it's like, oh, she's busy. That's why we're still struggling.
Yeah, that's so funny to me. Like, I mean, yeah, sure, it's realistic. She's out saving the universe where no one knows her. She's just on anyway.
Yeah.
But like, I agree with you. Where like the Marvel movies, I feel like got a little too grand, too theatrical,
Yeah.
and epic, and it was just like, cool, but man, yeah, let's go back to classic movies.
Yeah.
But that'll be a conversation for another time. So yeah, what do you guys think? What would be your number one? What would be your typical superpower? And then number two, what would be your different, unique superpower?
Yeah.
And then maybe talk about weaknesses and whatnot, or ethics.
Yeah.
Be interesting. Let us know what you think. Thanks for joining us on episode 1.
See ya.
Bye.